Robert.
I'm Wade.
I'm Travis.
And I'm Vanessa.
And we are late to the party. It's another Halloween edition of
Better Late Than Never.
Wait. That's what we do. We don't know what we're doing.
You just do the dance?
We just do the dance. Guys.
We got Wade Stai with us
Greetings,
now
everybody.
for these next October scary moments of Better Late Than Never.
Emmy award-winning writer and director, cinematographer, even I saw like stunt advisor or something.
Did crazy stuff.
Wade Stai. So, you've got something coming out very soon. We will talk about that. Friday Night Frights, look into it. But horror has always been something that I can go to this guy and talk to. So tell us, your first pick for this Halloween edition of Better Late Than Never. What are we getting into?
The classic, Stephen King, George Romero, Tom Savini, the Titans of Terror, Creepshow.
Creepshow.
Creepshow. Did you know it was released November 12th of 1982?
I did. I saw it in theaters
Oh,
that year
I
because
didn't.
I'm old AF.
And you said George Romero, so
Yes.
you kind of know that. Do you know who the music is by?
John Harrison.
Son of a bitch! I don't like this guy.
John Harrison, who
I don't think we wrote that down.
who directed an episode of the new series on Shudder.
Which actually premiered 1 week ago today.
So, Vanessa and I have been studying for the Movie Trivia Schmodown. We just had our battle recently, and one of the ones that we went through and studied was Creepshow.
Oh, maybe
Yes.
you should have studied When Harry Met Sally.
Absolutely right. I was watching Throw Mama from the Train
I
like
will
the
say,
10th
I
time.
knew where that quote came from, I just couldn't remember the name of the movie.
Yeah, I didn't know where it was, so I was like, Can't Buy Me Love? I know it's not. I love that movie shot here in Tucson. But Creepshow has definitely had a resurgence recently. We are going to see The Maze shortly at Halloween Horror Nights, Vanessa and myself. We are excited for that. And as you said, Shudder has a new show coming out. It's going to be the resurgence of what we loved about Creepshow, hopefully.
Hopefully.
You excited for it?
Yes, I am. I'm very excited.
So,
About this classic, though, is it worth rebooting? Let's find out by watching this trailer.
the original.
Coming soon.
Show the face. Show
Oh,
the
that's
face.
ridiculous.
They didn't show the face.
Daunting tales.
I love the Creep. He's awesome.
It's because he chose poorly.
Let's see it.
From the original Carrie, The Shining, and Cujo.
And Cujo.
I mean, this was Stephen King's glory days.
To the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. You'll scream.
I love how he just stands there.
Kids.
Stephen King's son.
Uh-huh.
At the
This whole scene's cut from the movie, actually.
That scene is cut.
This is going to be
Fair.
painful, Mr. Man.
I just love the way he acts in that whole scene. Don't do it!
So good.
you and give
I don't like that.
creeps.
Everyone's like nightmare.
Yep.
Well, this is going to be an entirely new experience.
Hal Holbrook, right?
Yeah.
He'll come up again.
Creepshow. The most fun you'll ever have. Being scared.
Classic.
The music, the graphics, and
yeah.
the voiceover.
Before we get going, I always ask, or
Yeah.
most of the time ask, would you see this movie? If you knew nothing about it, would you see it off of this trailer?
Yeah, I really would. It's in totally my speed.
Yeah, is it because
mean-
there's just so much going on?
I mean, the comic base. I mean, Stephen King's a hook, Romero's a hook. Both of those are awesome for me. So, I mean, that gets me in the door right there. But especially since it was all based off the EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, and that kind of thing, that immediately gets me through the door.
What about you guys?
I think I would go off of where it says Stephen King and George Romero, so that right there, I'm like, oh, it's them, and kind of being familiar with their work and everything, I would go in and watch it because of them.
Visual imagery. That's the thing about this trailer, is they're not giving you the narrative. You have no clue what the hell's going on, but you do see the visual imagery that is wanting to make you want to come and watch this movie. Seeing the practical effects, just a little bit that you see in this movie, which is one thing that I love about it, is that there were plenty of practical effects to go around, and you get to see a little bit of that. Going back to old school cinema, like Dawn of the Dead, you don't end up having those beautiful looking beast monsters coming at you. And in this one, you get the coming out of the ground. And at that point in time, you know, it's what makes you want to go and admire and see these monsters on screen.
What I like about this film is it's not a 2-hour movie. There's 5 separate stories that come to life, and that's what makes it fun and energetic, because alright, maybe this one didn't work for me. Maybe it didn't work for me, but the next one does.
Well, with this one too, I mean, when it comes down to the movie itself, this is just a hint. Like, this is just a glimpse of what they give you. For instance, there are many times in the film where it resorts back to its comic style of imagery.
Yep.
And you get a hint of that here where they show Adrienne Barbeau doing her scream. So they stood true to the comics, at least when it came to certain frames, certain images, and replicated them in video format. And that's, to me, like what I appreciate the most when it comes to Creepshow.
They had a huge problem with that, though, because when there are all kinds of stories, when they actually sent the film off to the lab was like, you guys totally ruined this film, because they shot it with colored lights and everything was shot weird, and they didn't understand. In the studios looking at dailies, and they were like, what are you wasting our money on? They didn't understand what was going on. So there was a lot of weird issues with the lab, the DP, some of the effects as far as like the panels appearing in the frame for the comic book. The studio was so confused. They didn't know how to deal with it. Now they would get it, but back then they didn't understand it. So
I will say that out of all the stories that they tell in Creepshow, that The Crate is probably my favorite.
Something in there, huh? Something shiny.
The Crate is good.
Yeah.
And it's funny because 2 members of The Crate, Adrienne Barbeau and Hal Holbrook, also appeared again later together in another film that's coming down the line on Better Late Than Never.
Yes.
But you have those 2 in there, and you do typically have George Romero and, of course, Stephen King kind of rolling with the same crew when it comes to the behind the scenes, the makeup, the imagery, the music. Everything is fairly similar, so it retains that kind of mystique that those films have had, that you have seen echo throughout the ages. Now, do you think the new show on Shudder is going to end up bringing that? Are they going to harness it?
I hope so, because Greg Nicotero, who's known mainly for the Walking Dead, is the producer, but he was Tom Savini protege from way back in the day.
Yeah.
He actually has a small part in Day of the Dead. He plays one of the soldiers. It's severed head and the good stuff. But he has a great respect for the movie and a ton of love for Romero. I mean, he gave him his career. And so I'm hoping that as the executive producer, he is able to go and say, okay, we really need to recapture that spirit, because if you look at Creepshow 2, it had Romero's involvement, but it didn't hold a candle.
Yeah, they only ended up doing like 3.
Right. You know, and then they sold the rights, and Creepshow 3 came out, and it was this awful thing. But what a lot of people don't know is the Tales from the Dark Side movie was originally Creepshow 3, and that the Tales from the Dark Side series was originally Creepshow, the TV series. All of those things wound up, due to rights issues and everything else, having to be changed, and so they all became Tales from the Dark Side.
And that's where I think we all kind of benefit. One, because they kept making them. They kept making these anthology series. They're all out there. Tale from the Dark Side. You've got even Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits. Those kept going on. So everybody always kind of had these stories to tell in anthological form. But when it comes down to it, they never held the legal name that is Creepshow. And I feel like it's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
It is the epicenter. You can go through and watch the Tales from the Crypt films and the Tales from the Crypt series and be able to say anthology. These all have their, even what was the one with John Ritter with with the monkey, the killer monkey, and they live in a neighborhood and all the houses are haunted and terrible. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, Terror Tract?
No, I don't remember.
I think it's Terror Tract.
But it's John Ritter. Like, you have all these other.
Thinking of Blended.
That happened a few episodes ago. When it comes down to it, though, we benefited because of there is something to be said. Something that also ended up almost occurring with Carpenter and Halloween.
Yeah.
Anthologies. So let's tell a whole slice of a story. Let's give them that, put our all in it, and then we move on to the next.
I think what's good now, though, too, is that it's starting to get a little bit of a resurgence. Kind of thanks to American Horror Story.
They're the ones that have hit it hard more consistently more recently.
But if you look at most of the anthology movies that have come out recently, the problem that I've had with most of them is they have a terrible wraparound, and they fall apart because it's so many different directors, so many different points of view. There's not one cohesive vision behind any of it.
Correct.
And so when you have something like Creepshow, or you have something, like Trick or Treat from 2007, those have one guiding vision and one set of crew that's moving through the whole thing together. And I think you have a uniformity that you don't get with some of these other ones where it's like, here's a small budget, go make your movie and then we'll plug it in. So
short-sighted when there's a long story form to be told there. So
Yeah.
I think and I hope that they are going to pull it off with Creepshow. But either way, thank you guys for watching our reaction to the original trailer and discussing Creepshow with Wade Stai, writer, director, aficionado. Check out Friday Night Frights now. Wade, tell us what you do with Friday Night Frights and Shadoworks.
Okay, so guys, I'm an independent producer. I'm making a feature anthology film, ironically enough, which dictated my choice.
So this wasn't just cleverly placed.
This is actually a prop from the movie. Friday Night Frights is set on the Friday before Halloween in a video store in the mid-'80s. And it is 5 stories with a solid wraparound and one guiding force behind it, so hopefully it'll all at least be coherent together. It's being independently produced right now. I'm in the middle of shooting everything, casting, crew, the whole nine yards. So it's coming together as we film this.
Now Wade, at the end of this reaction, you can actually watch, what is it, a debut first look trailer for the film?
It's the official. It's the announcement. The production announcement that we're actually going into production officially. And you can find all that stuff at FridayNightFrightsMovie.com. Or analoghorror.com.
And you can find the link down in the description below, and stay tuned to after this video to check that announcement reaction video of the trailer for what he has done.
Because you're making an anthology movie,
Yes.
how has something like Creepshow affected your thought process behind this?
Creepshow and Trick or Treat both are 2 different ends of the spectrum. Creepshow especially though, because it's a long movie, which is the first thing that a lot of people don't understand, is if you look at the original script, which I have, to Creepshow, it's 145 pages long.
That's a lot.
Which is really long.
Especially for screenplays. Most people know comedies are like 60 pages.
Yeah, and most features are hard 90, and the agent won't even touch it without being over that. So the first thing I looked at was story structure, episode length, overall aesthetic of how they handled each episode and the tone of each episode, visually, sound effects, music, the whole nine yards, and how that all played effect. So Creepshow was a huge influence. I would be lying if I said it wasn't. I mean, it's a huge influence. And then I looked at the structure of Trick or Treat because it unfolds very much like Pulp Fiction. Very non-linear. All the stories blend together, and I looked at that as far as an overall encompassing arc to kind of put around all the stories.
Listen to this guy, Rufus, he knows what he's talking about. But Vanessa, you can like and subscribe.
And did a thing on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Stardust.
All the social networking gin joints, you know where they are. Kicking to the party, fuel the party, keep the party going on our Patreon. Gets us where we need to go. We will be at Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes, we are going to be at Halloween Horror Nights, which so happens to have a Creepshow house, so that's going to be exciting. You know, it's all Creepshow all around. But
Creepy.
I am looking forward to going there. You can also check, we went last year, so check that out as well.
Trick or Treat Maze.
Yep, so.
Check it out on our channel. You can find the link down in the description below. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you, Wade.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Robert. And now it's time to say goodbye.
Now it's time to say goodbye. Bye.